What's up, guys? But we're here bringing you a video today talking about a subject that a lot of people get very passionate about. They get very behind these kinds of things. And I've not been one to pick sides usually, but I thought I should make a video on it because it's very interesting. I want to see what you guys think about it. But I want to know, what is the best faction in WoW, Alliance versus Horde? Now, there's a huge amount of factors to this. There's obviously aesthetic value, who's the better looking races, who has the best racials in game. There's also lore basis. Your favorite characters might be on Alliance or they might be on Horde. You might want to look back as far as like where they came from. Are Horde like based on evil? Is it evil versus good people? Because back when I started playing WoW, back when I was a young little 10-year-old pips, that's what I used to think it was. I used to think it's bad versus good, Horde being bad and Alliance being good. And there are certain circumstances like that, but there's also a lot of circumstances where the Alliance are the ones in the wrong, or the ones doing something evil or something like that. And I think it's much more a gray area on both sides, where they're both kind of bad or good in certain situations. So as soon as I started realizing that, or as soon as I started reading lore, I started to realize that there's no good versus bad in this as far as the actual whole faction goes. It's more of a particularly based on each specific person. And so I wanted to talk to you guys and see what you guys think are the best faction based on many things. So let's talk about aesthetics first. A lot of people, I think that's the main reason why they go Horde. They think they want to roll an orc, or they want to roll an undead. They think they look cool. That's specifically one of the main reasons I went Horde. Was I thought the Horde characters looked a lot cooler, a lot more pleasing, a lot more awesome, I guess would be the word to use. But on the other side of that, a lot of people would want to go Night Elves, or they'd want to go Blood Elves. I mean, Blood Elves are Horde, so I think aesthetics are going to tip a little bit into the Horde favor. I think because of Blood Elves, because everyone who played Alliance kind of played for the Night Elves, and as soon as Blood Elves were introduced, they're like, well, we can go Horde now, I guess. You know what I mean? And because of that, I can't see, the only other thing on Alliance that I see that is super aesthetically pleasing are gnomes. I mean, obviously dwarves deserve an honorable mention for their epic beards, but I think naturally Horde are gonna take the one for aesthetics, and I kind of think that's the way it goes. But Alliance, on the other hand, Alliance have a lot better racials. They have a lot more kind of appropriate and more basically appealing background to where they are, like Stormwind, their garrisons, anything that actually involves where they are, I think looks a lot better than Horde. Horde, the characters themselves and the character models look amazing, but the actual places they stay, like Orgrimmar and stuff like that, it's very run down, very average looking, very brown. It's not that great. Whereas you look at Alliance cities and it's a lot more vibrant and full of life. And I think all you need to do is look at the garrisons. If you look at an Alliance garrison and look at a Horde garrison, I mean, you'd have to have some kind of disability to think that Alliance looks worse than Horde. I honestly think everyone in the world realizes that Alliance has a better garrison. That's just the way it is. So naturally, I think it's very close on those two fronts, because of those backgrounds versus actual things. I mean, a lot of people don't really care about looks at all, but I have to kind of cover all my bases here because there's so much to cover. As far as racials go, I think Alliance definitely have better racials. All you need to do is look at the 2v2 or 3v3 board to realize that most racials on Alliance actually do make a difference and do make a change. And all of them are really good. I mean, I think about 90% of the people who roll a human are rolling it for the trinket. That's just... I don't know if Blizzard do that on purpose, where they're like, man, it's a fantasy game. I don't think people are going to roll a human, so let's just fucking make it have a really good racial so people have to roll it. Me personally, I don't understand why you would want to roll a human in a fantasy game. It just doesn't seem appropriate, I guess. For me, I've made human after human, so I'm being a bit hypocritical, but every time I've done it, I've made it for PvP. I've made it for the trinket. I've done it because I want to have a trinket for PvP. That's the only reason I ever made it. And because of that reason, I think Alliance, if anything, are now in front of Horde, because the racials are actually much more important, I think, based on gameplay. But that's if you're basing it on gameplay. If you're basing what's the better faction on gameplay, then I think Alliance would actually take it. But I don't know, are we basing it on gameplay? I think we have to base it off everything. So if aesthetics and gameplay come into it, they're about 1 for 1 at this point. And then you have to talk about lore. What is your favorite characters? What is your favorite, what is your favorite actual characters and storyline? Or even expansion based. I mean, Horde have the huge amount of issues of Garrosh being the one that fucking takes over Orgrimmar, and has a whole expansion based on like killing a horde leader. And if you're killing a horde leader for the entire expansion, doesn't that say that either there's problems with the horde, or is that even better for the horde because they have an expansion about them, and Alliance don't really have much about them? Like, when was the last time you had an expansion about Alliance, like solely about Alliance? I don't think there was one. Whereas their recent Mr. Pandaria seemed to be about pandas and then about the horde. Like, that's pretty much what the expansion was about. So I don't know what, like, a lot of people tell me that Blizzard's favorite faction is horde, but I don't think it's necessarily true. They seem to do it pretty evenly, except for the expansions. I mean, you had Mop with the expansion for orcs, and then we have Warlords, which is another expansion pretty much for orcs. And it's just, it feels very horde heavy, and I don't know if that's going to lean towards more horde being the ones that I think are the better faction, or it might even go the opposite way, because I always liked, I mean, I think everyone likes an underdog, right? I feel like when I used to play, I used to go for unpopulated servers, and I'd go for the less populated faction because I wanted to be an underdog. I legitimately would do that, where I'd roll an alliance on a horde-heavy server because I wanted to get max level and go and like make a name for myself, which I thought would be easier done on a faction with less people. And I would do those sorts of things, and it would make me like that faction more and like that community more, and that would help me like that faction more. So we've done aesthetics, we've done like backgrounds and garrisons, we've done racials, and we've also done lore. And I think honestly it's pretty even so far. I don't know if there's any other contributing factors besides personal preference. And personal preference dictates to me that I like horde better. I mean, I always have. I've liked orcs a lot. I don't play orcs, even though I like them. Probably is my favorite race, simply because everyone else plays them. Like, that's, I mean, that's, if there's ever a defining factor here, it'd be the fact that there's orcs fucking everywhere. I mean, but the orcs aren't just the horde, you know what I mean? Like, I have my favorite character in game, which is like Sylvanas. I really like all the orc characters. I like the orc lore. I really like the fucking undead lore. It was one of my favorite times during Warcraft 3 to play through the undead stuff. It was really, I really have like a kind of set in stone liking to the horde, even though right now my favorite character is on Alliance. I'm playing Jorf and playing my warrior, and I'm really liking the warrior on Alliance. I'm kind of topsy-turvy though. I've never been really set in one faction or the other, but I know you guys are out there, and I want you guys to talk about it in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think is the best faction and why you think it's the best faction, because I honestly, they're looking pretty even to me. I mean, horde might be tipping over the top here, but they're looking pretty even. So let me know what you guys think. Have a good day, have a lovely year. Let me know what their favorite faction is down below in the comments, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. See you later, guys.